I'm out in Warsaw, Poland for the week. So let's go out there and hit the streets and see what interesting cars we find that we don't get back home in America. Look at this, it's a Lexus LBX. This is their version of the Toyota Cross Yaris, I believe, and it's, I think, the smallest Lexus ever made. It's so tiny. Look at these finds here, a Lada Niva in front of a Ssangyong Chavoli or something. It's a Korean car. Ssangyong is the brand. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And yeah, it's the Tivoli. Wild. And then look at this. We have a Citroen C Crosser. I believe this was, as you can tell from the silhouette, a second-gen Mitsubishi Outlander made as the Citroen C Crosser. Look at this cute little thing. This is the Toyota Aygo X. Basically, their tiny little hatchback jacked up to be sort of like crossover influenced. But man, it's just so tiny. Look, it's got the base steely wheels. Super cool. The new third generation of the Mercedes-Benz CLA with EQ technology. We will be getting that in the States, but here it is first in Warsaw. Look at this. We got two generations of the Mazda 6 wagon right here, right by each other. We got the second gen Mazda 6 wagon and the third gen. Man, the third gen especially looks nice. Those are cool to see. We only ever got the first gen of the Mazda 6 wagon in the States, but here they both are right next to each other, and I believe next to, what is that, a Rio? Yeah, that's just a Kia Rio. But then we've also got Volkswagen Polo here, it looks like, and a Mondeo Estate, Ford Mondeo Estate, and another one I remember from back in the day, the Honda FRV, one of their MPVs. BMW M3 Touring. That's badass. BMW 1 Series 5-door hatch, a diesel model at that. We only ever got these as coupes and convertibles, but here is the 1 Series hatch that the rest of Europe got. The Volkswagen Passat lives on in the rest of the world, which also means the wagon version lives on as well, or as Volkswagen calls it, the Passat variant. Check it out. Ooh, and this is one of my faves from back in the day, the Alfa Romeo 159 sedan. Just look at the styling on that. Such an iconic Alfa Romeo shape at the front. Love it. Look at that. We found the wagon variant too, the Alfa Romeo 159 Estate, next to an OG Subaru Legacy wagon too. Look at this little thing. This is the Hyundai Inster, one of their newest micro EV little urban runabouts. Super cool. Love the styling on that. This is a Renault Clio, but isn't this a Nissan Rogue? Like first gen Nissan Rogue? Is that what I'm looking at here? Looks like it, doesn't it? Suzuki, of course, long gone from the US market, but it lives on, and here is the current Vitara, or at least a modern-ish Vitara. I don't know if this is the current gen. Spotted a cool hot hatch here, the Clio RS from Renault. Ford Focus wagon, and check it out over there, a Mitsubishi Colt. This is a Nissan Qashqai, which we basically would have received as the next generation of the Nissan Rogue Sport, but that model was canceled. It continues over here as the Qashqai. The Volkswagen Up, exclamation mark, of course. And here we find Audi's smallest crossover, the Q2, which also just recently went out of production. They made an SQ2 as well. Looks like this is a normal Q2 with the S-Line package slotted below the Q3. Alfa Romeo Giulietta, not the Giulia, but the Giulietta. This was their sort of golf market competitor in the hatchback space. Always thought these looked pretty sharp, and they did make a QV version of these too, which is awesome. Look at this little lineup. We have the latest Audi A1 that actually just exited production recently, next to the OG Audi A3 5-door hatch. Seen better days, but man, that's interesting to see Audi's original compact entry next to its most modern compact entry, looking basically the same size. Pretty cool. Both 5-door hatches, and also next to an Opel Meriva. I think that's the first generation of that little MPV. And then a Skoda Roomster. Pretty quirky sort of Ford Transit Connect style MPV slash van thing. Very interesting. Next to a Toyota Urus. Look at this. It's a Cupra Formentor. This is Seat's sport brand Cupra. And I believe this particular model is exclusive to the Cupra brand, meaning it's not based off of a lower spec Seat model. And I think it also shares a platform with the Audi RS Q3. A modern generation of the Opel cargo van. I believe this is the Vivaro. And behind that, a Renault Megane. This fun little car is the Dacia Duster. Great little crossover. Look at this. This is actually a Ford C-Max. Very different, of course, than the C-Max hybrid vehicle that we got in the US. But this is what they looked like before they got to that generation that we got. Early generation Volkswagen Polo in front of a car that literally is just badged as Beijing. So some Chinese brand, but I have no idea what that is. Look at this find, a Volvo V40. This was their smallest wagon that they never exported to the US. Sort of a successor to the V50 in a way. That's pretty cool. Next to a Fiat Punto. And then look at this, a Mitsubishi Space Star. Not sure really what the deal with that is. I don't know much about that. And then a European market older Ford Fiesta S. And what else? Citroen C8 minivan. That's pretty cool. The Honda Fit, but known here as the Jazz. Chevy Lacetti Wagon. Wow, nice. I think the Lacetti was the star in the reasonably priced car in some of the earlier Top Gear seasons, the sedan variant. There's the wagon. And then what's this? Some sort of Renault. Don't recognize that one off the top of my head, but oh, look at that. A Renault Twingo. That is an iconic European French hatch right there. The first generation of the Twingo. So cool. This is an interesting newer car. This is a tiny little Jeep, and it's called the Avenger. Brings back the Avenger name that Dodge once used, but now on this tiny little Jeep. I believe this shares a platform with the Fiat 600 and a few other things in the Stellantis group. But they have this in, I think, a hybrid version and then also a electric version, if I'm not mistaken. It's a tiny little CUV. Next to, what do we got here? A Peugeot 307 Estate of some sort. And then here is the Toyota Yaris Cross. We've got the Corolla Cross in the US, but they've got more crossover versions of their tiny cars here like this, which shares its platform with the Lexus LBX. This little dirt alley here is filled with some interesting stuff. We have a Skoda Octavia VRS sedan here, and then a car we did get in the US, but I didn't expect to see it here in Warsaw, a Daewoo Lanos 3-door hatch. And then another interesting one here, Dodge Stratus Coupe. I have no idea why this is here, or that they even sold these here, but there's a Stratus Coupe in Warsaw. And then here we have a Peugeot, I think that's a 107, tiny little hatch. And then look at this tiny little Nissan Micra. I believe this is the Ford Kuga, which we got as the Escape, but they called it the Kuga out here. And ooh, this is cool. This is the second generation Audi A3 Sportback. 3 doors. That's pretty cool. They also had an S3 version of this that we never got. And a Renault Scenic. Look at this, a Dacia Logi in front of a Renault Traffic cargo van. Here we have an older generation of a Toyota Corolla wagon, specific to the European market, of course. Doesn't look like any other Corollas we got, but they get almost everything here as a wagon. First gen Acura TSX? No, this is actually the European market Honda Accord from that same time. We got it imported in the US as the TSX. And then next to a Citroen Berlingo. Opel Insignia wagon. Mercedes C-Class Estate W204 generation. A Skoda Kodiaq VRS edition. The Peugeot 1007, the city hatchback with the sliding minivan doors. Now this is a nerdy find of badge engineering here. You're looking at the Fiat Fremont, which we would know as the Dodge Journey. Another good find, we got a Daihatsu, Toyota's other Japanese brand in their portfolio. This is the Ssangyong. This is the Skoda Enyaq, their version of the Volkswagen ID4 electric crossover. Look at this, another good find, the Toyota Urban Cruiser, which we got as the Scion XD hatchback. But that didn't exist anywhere else, so here you got the Urban Cruiser. And then also Mercedes-Benz B-Class, the current generation. A fun hot hatch spotted here, the Volkswagen Polo GTI. It's the Dacia Sandero. New generation of the Honda Fit, aka the Honda Jazz. That's actually pretty sharp looking. The OG Smart 42, the first generation before they started exporting them to America. A Citroen C5 Aircross next to an Audi Q3 Sportback. We don't get the Sportback models of those back home. And then a Volkswagen T-Roc, one of the small crossovers from Volkswagen here in Europe. New generation of the Mercedes A-Class hatch. Now this is a neat find right here. This is of course a BMW 3 Series E46, but it's a compact model with a very odd and unique front end They actually continued the E36 3 Series compact with the 46 chassis here in Europe and other markets. So weird looking. Look at that, the almighty Lexus LM van, their version of the Toyota Alphard. Believe it or not, that is a Ford Fusion. Renault Clio next to a giant Fiat Ducato. This is the Ram ProMaster back home, but this is what it's based on. And then we also have another Yaris Cross. The new B10 generation of the Audi A5 Avant. An awesome wagon here, the Volkswagen Arteon Shooting Brake. Here's the European market Honda HR-V. It's actually a hybrid and looks quite a lot nicer than the one we get. Look at this. This is a Ford Explorer. Yes, for real, it's an Explorer, and it's fully electric. They built this in partnership with Volkswagen, I believe on the same platform as the ID4 for the European market and some other areas. Of course, nothing like the Explorer back in the US, but that's pretty cool to see their partnership EV with VW.